Hi again. So today we are going to discuss another very important topic in computer programming, and that is related to the conditional statements. Okay, so last time we have seen when certain condition is true, certain work has been conducted. So today we are going to discuss these statements and going to see that how can we use these statements in our programming assignments. Okay, so let us have a switch in our home, and we can very easily see that if the switch is off, so there is another thing, and that is the light in our home. Okay, so if that switch is, let me draw it like this. So if this switch is off, I mean this circuit is open here, so this light will be off. Okay, similarly, if the switch is turned on, how can it be turned on? It will change its condition and it will be now in this condition. So when it is in this condition, it will turn on. Let me represent it with this one. Okay, so what has happened? Let me write it in the conditional form, that if this means switch is off, so light is off. Okay, so it is related to what? It is related to this condition of the switch. Similarly, if the switch is in this condition, what will happen? Light will turn on. Okay, so these are basically two statements, and we can also represent them like this one. This is colon, and in order to distinguish these two statements, I can write colon at the end of each if statement. Okay, so what will happen if this is true? This will happen. If the second if is true, this will happen. So these are two basic if conditions or if statements. Similarly, what we can do in engineering and in computer science, we can very easily see that this condition, this off condition, is basically represented with 0, while the on condition is mostly represented with 1. Okay, so that is true in many cases. Similarly, in representing it, how can we write it in terms of 1? So we can write it like if 1, light, sorry, this is the if 0, what will happen? Light is off, and if 1, light is on. That is the one situation. Similarly, if I want to represent this off and on in terms of zeros and 1, I can also write it like if 0. Okay, so light is 0, and similarly if 1, light is 1. Okay, so that is a very easy interpretation of our this switch example, and we have transformed it from here. Let me call it 1, this is the second, and this one is the third statement. Similarly, if this is, because now what we have been doing, when the switch is in off condition, we have been assigning this 0 into this light. Similarly, here this is what is it doing? It is assigning this 1 to this light when the condition is true here. Okay, so what are we going to do here now? That this is can also be replaced with the assignment operator, which we have previously seen, because what is going on is that this light is just like here. So we are going to put 1 or 0 with respect to the condition of a switch. Okay, so these statements can also be written in 4 steps, and in that step I can write it like if 0 light equal to 0, if 1 light equal to 1, sorry, that is light. Okay, so that is my final set of statements, in which what I have done, I have written all of these things in terms of zeros and ones, and similarly I have represented the condition of the light bulb in terms of zeros and ones, that when it is off it is basically 0, and when it is on it is 1. Okay, so what is the next step? This is basically the actual concept behind the usage of the conditional statement. Okay, so we can very easily see that this if will always work if something here is 1, or I can also write it like if something here is true, so then whatever is beneath it, sorry, will be implemented if this is true. Similarly, if whatever here is false, so whatever beneath will be implemented. Okay, so these are basically the two conditions in which whatever here should be true or should be false in order to implement the conditions or statements which are beneath these conditions. Okay, so this is for true or 1, and this is for false. So this is for the if condition. So now let us go towards our previous examples, in which we saw that a person is picking something and asking the other person that what is this? So if that thing is an apple, the other person will say yes. If that is not an apple, the other person will say no. Okay, so what basically is going on in that example? Basically, a person here, again let me go towards it again, has a pot, and let me call it X. Okay, in X he is putting something. Okay, when he puts something, he will take it, that is X, and in X he has something, and will ask the other person that what is this? So what is X? So if X is an apple, he will say yes, otherwise he will say no. Okay, so that is the overall condition. How can I write it in terms of the programming language? Okay, as we are going from the plain statements into the programming statements, so let me write them in terms of the programming statements. So how can I write it like this one? So initially I have a data type which is X, and X has to collect something as an input. Okay, when something is collected here, what will happen? So the other person will ask if X is an apple. Okay, what will happen? The other person will say yes, or else, this command is also here, else he will say no. So these are basically the plain statements which are in the human understandable language. but how to convert them into any code, how to do them in the programming language, like to make computer understand that what we want to make it understand and what we want to make it to code. Okay, so what is the first step here? The first thing here we have is this x variable, and we still don't know the data type of it, but let me use the x equal to, and what is x? X basically initially collect something from the available practices. Okay, so x basically will take something as an input. So what to do now? Luckily we have the function here, that is the input function here. What it will do, it will ask to get some variable or something and put that thing into the x. Okay, so what is the next step? In next step, that is the implementation of the if statement, and in writing the if statement, let me write it in red. So what will happen? It will ask that whether x is equal to an apple. Okay, again our developed rules here that we have to put the colon at the end of the conditional statement. So if x is equal to, equal means the equality operator as we have described it in our previous lecture. So if x is equal to an apple, what will happen? It will say yes. Okay, but wait a minute here. Whenever we will write the complete noun or the complete character, a list of characters here, what will we do? We will just put the inverted commas at the start and at the end of our characters here. Okay, so if x is an apple, what will happen? It will say yes. Okay, so again here we can see that the characters here, so we have to put the inverted commas here, and after writing it I should also have to put the brackets at the end and at the start of my characters here, and after it I have to write the statement, which is basically the print statement. Okay, what will it do? If x is equal to an apple, it will print yes, else there is another statement here, and that is the else. So after else I have to put the colon again. So after it, what will happen? It will say, if it is not an apple, it will say no. Again our developed rule in which we have to put the commas here. Okay, so that is a very simple program, and that is basically the program which I have written in the form of a computer code, and this basically program is written in terms of the Python. Okay, so that is the Python code, and the overall scenario what I have described here has been written in the form of the Python code, and I think now it is understandable. So that is it for the today, and I will try to implement it in our next lecture. Thank you so much.